y'all see me on there, give me a shout out. I am going to be doing something a little bit different this Thursday evening. I'm going to be doing what I am calling a leadership lean-in. I mean, I'm just going to be giving a word tonight on leadership and vision and how to be a better leader. I don't know about y'all, but I constantly want to become a better leader. So I'm going to let y'all, some of you guys log in here for a second and give me a shout out. Let me know you're here. I'm building. I was going to say normal, but I preached a message about not being normal the other day. And so we're not trying to get back to normal, but I'm looking forward to being back in the church building. Anybody else out there looking forward to being back in the church building? I'm excited for it. It seems like it's going to be pretty soon. We're only a few weeks away from that. So keep that in your prayers, man. Keep praying for breakthrough and that we could actually get back and be in the building once again and worshiping together. Come on, who many guys? I can worship at home. Like I know how to worship at home and put on some music, but there is just a difference of being in the building and worshiping. Come on, how many know that you're in the presence of God, lifting your hands, shouting to Jesus, and worshiping with a live team and other believers? It's amazing. So, hey guys, let me know that you are here this evening. Let's see. We got a couple people logging in. Let me know that you're dropping in, and I'm going to get started here in a little bit. But just drop a little message on there. Say, hey, what's up? Say, I'm here. I'm watching tonight. I'm with my family. We're hanging out, having a good time. Hope you guys are doing well. How you guys been enjoying the quarantine so far? I know I've tried to really make the most of it and try to engage the best I can and enjoy the best I can. I've been spending a lot of time with the kids. We put a pool up in the backyard, and we've been swimming a lot. Sally took the kids up to Jemez with Pastor Steve and Pastor Ann today. I had a lot of work to do, and so I wasn't able to hang out with them, but I talked to them, and they said they had a good time. So, hey, let me know you're here. We're going to get started here in a minute. I'm just trying to give, 3-4 minutes, let people kind of log on so they can engage and hear from us today. Let me know if the stream is going smooth. I've been doing it in the cafe and different places, but the children's ministry is recording tonight, so they kind of overtook the areas that I wanted to record in. So, hey, it is what it is, but man, it's going to be amazing. I got to see like half of the children's recording, and it's going to be so good on Sunday. Mother's Day, my wife preached an incredible message this Sunday. Like, y'all want to invite some people. I was thinking that we could have a goal this Sunday of getting over 100 shares on Facebook. What do y'all think about that? I think we've been getting close to like 50 shares on Facebook. Mother's Day is a huge day. Do y'all think we can break 100 shares on Facebook this Sunday? Come on, how do y'all feel about that? What's up, Fred, Priscilla, Teresa? I see some people, Alicia logging in. How cool would it be though to break 100 shares on Facebook, man? And we can reach a ton of people this weekend. So it is good to see y'all. All right, y'all leaning in tonight? Y'all ready for the leadership message tonight? I'm excited, man. I love talking about leadership. Leadership is actually one of my favorite subjects. It's one of my favorite things to talk about and to help people to grow in. And I think one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite things to talk about and discuss is I don't always feel like I was a great leader. And I don't even know if I'm a great leader now, but I know that I'm a better leader than I was yesterday. I'm a better leader than I was before. And I'm constantly trying to grow in my leadership. And so leadership's one of those things. I think people approach leadership a couple different ways. I think one of the responses, if I was to point at you today and say, you are a leader, you're going to respond one or two ways. You're going to either respond with a bit of excitement, like, yeah, I want to do something. I want to make a difference. I want to change the world. Come on, let me know if that's you out there. Like, you're one of those people that, like, man, you feel excited when someone tells you you're a leader. But there's also a second kind of person when you talk about leadership, and they're like, no, I'm not a leader. I can't make a difference. But the truth of the matter is that in some capacity or another, we're all called to lead, right? If you're a parent, you're called to lead in your home. If you work a job and you have anybody underneath you, you're called to lead in that capacity. Even in your relationship with God, you're called to lead people to Christ. And so no matter what walk of life, or even if you even feel confident in your leadership, you are called to be a leader. And so if you feel like, man, I'm ready to be a better leader today, man, this word's for you. But even if you're like, I don't know, can I really be a leader? I think this message is for you too. And so I want to talk to you tonight, and I kind of wrestled with some of what I would think are like, I think I have 5 or 6 points, but 5 or 6 leadership points that I think are some of the most vital and important aspects of being a better leader. And so the title of what I want to talk about tonight is Becoming a Greater Leader. How many of you guys want to become a greater leader out there? I know I do. I'm believing that you do. I'm believing that we all want to become greater leaders. And so I want to give you several points on becoming a greater leader. If you want to take notes on your phone or something, because I have a lot of really, really great content to share with you today. The first point I want to share about becoming a greater leader is that leadership is a craft. Leadership is a craft. And what I mean by that is that leadership isn't something that you're necessarily just born with, right? We talk about, no, he's just a natural born leader. And there's some people that maybe you're born with some inherent leadership qualities. But like anything, like playing an instrument or learning to paint or draw or any kind of skill that is out there, you're not just born a natural born painter, right? Like you might be a good painter when you're born, but you're not Picasso when you're born. You become a better leader. And so leadership is a craft in the regard in that you can learn, you can develop, and you can become better at it. And so I think I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I haven't always felt like I was the best leader. I felt like probably coming into wanting to originally be a pastor and maybe as a teenager or younger in my 20s is that I had some pretty strong, what I would say, deficiencies in my leadership. But one of the things that I've tried to do is I've tried to work on my craft. Just like, some people work on becoming a better musician, I've worked on trying to become a better leader. I've taken where I started and I've continued to grow and develop my leadership. And I want to say this is that the greatest investment that you can make in life is the investment you make within yourself. A lot of times we're easy to put our money into things or put our money into entertainment, but how willing are we to spend money to developing ourselves or just spending time developing ourselves to become a better leader? And a lot of times one of the things that people will often say is that I just don't have the time, right? That's one of the biggest excuses, but we have time for whatever we want to have time with. Everyone has 24 hours in a day, right? And so you actually have time that you can spend to become a greater, more impactful leader. And so some of the ways that you can invest in yourself, one of the awesome things about leadership is that there's so many amazing people that you can learn from. Have you ever had the thought, sometimes people will come to me and be like, I want you to be my spiritual dad, or I want you to be my spiritual parent. And I love that. I feel so honored. But one of the things about being one single human is that I'm limited in the amount of people that I can really invest in, right? Because I'm just one person. Even Jesus himself, even though he preached to the crowd, right? He invested himself in 12. He discipled 12 people. And even from there, he really invested in the 3. And even from that, he invested the most within Peter. And so Jesus couldn't invest in everybody and everything. He had to actually pick specific people. But here's my point in all this. Even though I might not personally be able to have one-on-one coffee with you every week or meet with you, you can have as much access to leadership as you want. There's so many good books and podcasts and messages and documentaries and everything that you can think about in regards to leadership and growing yourself as a leader. And so you don't actually have to know Martin Luther King Jr., right, to become a better leader from him. You can read his book or listen to his speeches. I love reading books. I read probably about a couple books a month on average. And I love reading autobiographies or even just biographies and learning from people that I've never met before. One of the ones I could think of specifically, an autobiography I loved, is called Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the creator of Nike. And it's such a good book on there's so much leadership inside of it, so much entrepreneurship, which I'm passionate about within that book. I've never met Phil Knight, but Phil Knight has invested inside of me. Why? Because I've read his book, right? And the same thing, even if you don't like love reading, I suggest that you learn to love reading. I wasn't a natural born leader as anything, but I've learned to enjoy reading because I want to become greater. Does that make sense? It's not that I actually enjoy opening up the book or reading the pages. It's that I want the information in there to come inside of here. I want what it does inside of me and changes me. But even if you're like, man, I really struggle to read or whatever, there's podcasts, right? I listen to podcasts. I probably listen to at least a podcast every single day, or, some kind of video cast, something. I'm always listening to podcasts. I love even going to church conferences, right? And church conferences can be expensive to go to. You spend $1,000 in travel and all that. Like, it can be expensive to go, but I always don't think of it as an expense. I think of it as investment. I think of it as I'm investing in myself to grow myself because I want to become the best leader that I can be. I want to kind of share a principle under this same point of leadership capacity. That word capacity literally means how much you can hold. I have a bottle of water here, right? You guys can see this. I've drank probably about a fourth or maybe a third of it. But the thing about a bottle is it's limited in how much it can carry. This one here is 33.8 ounces, okay? 1 quart of water. Now, no matter how much I want this water to carry 2 quarts, it can't, because it has a certain level of capacity, right? Once I fill up the water all the way to the lid, it is completely maxed out. There's nothing more I can put inside of it. And so the same is true of your leadership. Right now, you have what we would call a leadership capacity. Okay, a leadership capacity. Maybe that's 1 quart of leadership capacity. Maybe that's 2 quarts. Maybe you got a gallon. Maybe you got a 5-gallon jug. Maybe you got a 50-gallon drum of leadership capacity. But every single one of us right now has a level of leadership capacity. But here's the awesome thing. You can grow your leadership capacity. Man, if I used to be 1 quart, maybe I've grown to 2 quarts. Maybe I've grown to a gallon. Maybe I've gone to a 50-gallon drum. Maybe I've gone to a dump truck. I don't know where I'm at, but my point is that you can continue to grow and how much you can possibly carry, how much leadership capacity you can carry. You can grow that. You invest in yourself. You continue to learn to become a greater leader. Let's go on to point number 2. Is if you want to become a greater leader, you have to build credibility and trust. You have to build credibility and trust. I think credibility and trust is like the currency of leadership. The more you have it, the more you can spend, the more that people will actually buy from you, take from you, the more credibility and trust. And if you know anything about credibility and trust, is it's hard to get trust, but it's easy to lose trust. Have you ever experienced that yourself? Like, you're a weary person, and so you struggled to trust somebody, but you got closer and closer and closer and closer, and it took you 2 years to get to a place that maybe you could open up with them. But when you opened up with them, they shared that information with somebody else. And because they shared that information with somebody else, that trust is broken. And how much longer does it take you to trust again? You may never trust again. Why? Because you gave up that trust. Like, that trust was broken. It's hard to get back. And so credibility and trust is the currency of leadership. I'm telling you right now is you have to build credibility. The definition of credibility is the quality of being convincing or believable. It's simply that people believe in you, that people believe that you're a person of your word, that people can feel like they can trust you with information. It's that they have a sense when they're around you that this person is credible. Like, I can listen to them and know what they're saying holds weight and is true. So you build credibility with consistency over time. The next part of credibility and trust is honesty. And one of the things that I've really found as a leader is honesty is much harder than we think, right? Like, one of the 10 commandments is about not lying, like thou shalt not lie, right? Thou shalt not bear false witness. But I've learned that that's easy most of the time, but that can be challenging some of the time. And I think honesty goes a few ways. Like, I think if you're not honest enough as a leader sometimes to tell people what's really going on or what you really feel, there can be a cost to that. I've seen relationships sometimes in church where maybe somebody is being dysfunctional in church. I don't know, they're not acting appropriate, or they're just bringing down the team because they're negative or something. But what happens is if you don't actually engage with that, and if you're not honest with them, what happens is the rest of your team is going to know. They're like looking at that person like, I can't believe they let them act like that. I can't believe they let them get away with that. And so instead of confronting, which is challenging, right? You guys can say on there, confrontation's hard. But instead of confronting, and confrontation doesn't have to be mean, right? You can confront in a loving and compassionate way, but an honest way. But if you don't confront, you lose credibility with your team because now they don't trust you. Does that make sense? Like they don't trust that you actually will engage with that person who's struggling. And so honesty is a huge part of leadership in that you, first of all, you're a person of your word, but second of all, you actually say the things that you feel. Like you're actually engaging with people and not avoiding things and throwing things to the side. Another part of honesty is exaggeration. I'm not going to lie. There's sometimes I am like so tempted to exaggerate. Even preaching, right? You're telling a story and you know it happened like this, but you just take it just a touch further, right? You just go a little bit further with the story because it makes your point seem just that little bit better. But exaggeration, I'm telling you right now, is dangerous. It's like the boy that cried wolf, right? People start believing in you because they're like, they exaggerate all the time, right? But if you can learn to be precise and just honest in your stories and your language, and you don't have to exaggerate to get your point across, because exaggeration can lead to manipulation. Man, that was really good right there. That's like tweetable as Pastor Steve. He says, I don't know what he says, but he says something about tweetable. But exaggeration can lead to manipulation. And what happens is you exaggerate your point to get what you want. And that's not healthy leadership. Is you have to learn to just be honest, be truthful, and be accurate in your speech. The next one is authenticity. And so I think when it comes to building credibility and trust is you never want to portray yourself as being like perfect. And one of the things, I'm telling you right now, one of the things that is often taught, this is going to be good, is that if you're going to be a leader, you can't show anyone your weaknesses. That's actually a lie. Like that is a false truth. Like it's not real. And I understand what they're saying is you don't want to go and like throw up all over your team members and be like my wife. And then, you don't want to go like all crazy. But I think if people don't see an authentic version of yourself with weaknesses that makes mistakes, all that stuff, what begins to happen, that also gets to a point, it does either one of two things. It either puts you so high on a pedestal, as soon as they see a crack in the armor, they're going to bail on you, or they're going to feel like you failed them somehow. I've seen this happen with even in church with me. Like people put you so high up there, and as soon as they find out you're human, they bail because they're like, oh my gosh, they're not the man of God or whatever you want to call it. But I think what happens if you're authentic, meaning that you come at a level that you actually can relate to people, that you actually let people in your life and your problems, and you're not just, plastic and distant with people and never let people in. As a leader, you're called to be close to people. And that idea that somehow leaders are supposed to be distant from their followers is a lie, right? As leaders, we're called to be close to the people that we're leading. And so being authentic with people, I never want to make myself seem perfect. I want to make myself be vulnerable, and I also want to make myself seem authentic. I want people to be able to believe my character when they're around me. The next one I've kind of mentioned a little bit is character. And character is simply, can I trust you? Like, does your word match your lifestyle? Like, are you the same person no matter where you're at? And, I think character a lot of times is an overlooked aspect of leadership. Like people just think, character's good. But character is so foundational. As people trust in character, they engage with people with high character. And so today I've already kind of gone through that, but character. And the last one under building trust and credibility is consistency. That you could just be consistent with time. Like I said, trust can be hard to get with people. And I even feel like as a pastor, when me and Pastor Steve made the transition earlier in the year, I think one of the reasons why it's really gone so smooth is through time, I believe that I've proven myself to be trustworthy and consistent, right? I've been here, at the church for a long time. I'm not trying to jump ship to the next best thing. And I'm engaged. I'm here, and people find passion and consistency. Like, they actually engage with people that are consistent. They're loyal to people that are consistent. And so just being consistent in your character, consistent in your honesty, consistent in your credibility, consistent in your level of trust. And I'm telling you right there, you begin to build a foundation that your leadership can be built upon. The next one, and I would say this was initially my weakest area that I've gotten so much better at, and I'm actually consistently getting better at, is rapport with people. Rapport with people. The definition of rapport is a close or harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. And what it really comes down to is people skills, how you engage with people. No matter how talented of a person you are, and whatever it is, like no matter how talented of an engineer or a teacher or a pastor or a preacher, like whatever area of life you are in or leadership you are in, if you don't learn to build rapport with people, develop your people skills, what happens, it doesn't matter how talented you are, people won't follow you. Right? Because they don't know how to engage with you. They don't know how to communicate. You don't know how to communicate with each other. And you have to learn to build rapport with people. One of the things that I've tried my best to do, and I'm not always perfect with this, but I learned from one of my leaders in the past, is if I'm passing someone in the church hallway, or if I see somebody, and stop and shake hands, I try my best, and I might only have 10 seconds with them to shake their hand. Well, apparently with Corona, we're not allowed to shake hands anymore, but look them in the eye and ask them sincerely, like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, it's great to see. I want to build a personal connection with people, even if it's 10 seconds, because I think in 10 seconds, people can feel acknowledged and believe that they're important to you in a simple matter of 10 seconds. And I've been guilty of this, right? Like you're going through church or you're going through work and you see somebody on your team and you're like, hey, what's up? And you just keep, you keep going on your thing and you just kind of skip by them real quick. But what happens, I think, if you could just learn to spend a moment of every single day of your life, and every time you pass somebody or every time you walk by someone else's office or whatever, you don't have to chat with them for 30 minutes. Just look at them in the eyes and be like, hey, how you doing? It's great to see you. We love that you're a part of this team, and move on. You know what I mean? That simple little bit of engagement and rapport can really make a huge difference in your leadership. How you engage with people makes people feel valued, makes people feel understood, allows people to believe that you notice them. These things are vital in your leadership. And one of the excuses that we would make sometimes as not having people skills is we would blame it on our personality. I've done that, right? Well, I'm just an introvert. I'm shy. Or maybe I'm an extrovert, so I just say whatever, and so you could be rude, but you can't use your personality as an excuse to limit your leadership and limit your people skills, right? Whether or not I would consider myself shy, right? Sometimes, not always, but I would consider myself semi-shy a little bit. Meaning that I don't always love walking the church halls and shaking hands and all that. That's not some people love, like Ashley Mancha. She could sit out in the foyer and talk to people all day long. And that's not me, but that's not my personality, is not an excuse for a lack of people skills or a lack of being able to engage with people and have good rapport with people. And just as leadership is a skill, you can develop and learn to have better communication skills, better people skills, and to engage with people on a deeper, more meaningful level. And so I hope that makes sense, but learn to have rapport with people. One of the things that I've had to learn, I'm to the point. Like anybody out there, like a to the point kind of person, like someone calls me and I'm like, hey, this is what we got to get done. This is what we got. I'm just straight to the point kind of person. But I'm learning and have learned, hopefully learning more and more, is to spend a moment and focus on the person, not the task. Does that make sense? It's like, hey, how you doing? How's your day going, man? Good. Hey, I was thinking I had this idea, blah, blah, blah. But what happens, just that, sometimes it only takes 10 seconds, but that little bit of rapport you build with people makes a huge difference, and it makes a huge difference in your leadership. And so being able to build rapport with people is huge. People skills is huge. You got to learn to develop and continue to develop, and don't allow your personality to be an excuse for a lack of people skills. Well, I'm just blunt. I'm just to the point. I'm just shy. I'm just over extroverted and I get excited, or whatever you might be like, this is my reason that I don't have good people skills. You got to throw that in the trash, right? Bundle it up and Kobe it, boom, throw it over there. And you got to begin to engage with people and grow that area of your life. Grow your people skills. All right, I'm going to keep going. Keep going. You guys engaging? You guys good with this today? Give me an amen, a shout, hallelujah, something out there on the chat today. Next thing is clarity of communication and vision. Clarity of communication and vision. Clarity doesn't mean that you said it. Clarity means that it was properly understood. Have you ever done that, like with your kids or your husband? Me and my wife, I ain't gonna lie, we do it more than we'd like to admit, but we'll be having a conversation and she'll be like, hey, so-and-so are going over. And I'm like, I didn't know that they were coming over. And she's like, yeah, I told you. And I'm like, you didn't tell me. Any couples out there ever have those conversations where maybe you said it, but just because you said something doesn't mean that it was properly understood. And so clarity of communication isn't just that you said it. And one of the things I see people get so frustrated at in marriage and leadership, or whatever you want to call it, is that they will say like, well, I said it, you should have understood. But saying it is not the same as being clear. Being clear means the other person understood you. You following that? You following that this evening? It's not that you said it, it's that they understood. And that is actually the purpose of communication. The purpose of communication is not what you say, it's that people understand you. And so you can't get caught up on I said it. That doesn't mean it's clarity, okay? In order to bring a clear vision with others, you must first have a clear vision yourself. And I think one of the reasons why we fail sometimes to bring clear vision to people, and I'm telling you, under a lack of clarity of vision, whatever team, whatever you serve, and whatever job you have, it can be so frustrating. How many guys have ever had a job where you felt like the vision was unclear? Like you didn't know what you were supposed to be doing? You ever been there? I've had those moments where I'm like here, but I'm not sure about where we're going or what we're doing. Man, it is so frustrating to work and to live under that environment. And so one of the first things that has to happen, if you are going to clearly communicate vision, purpose, direction, you must first have a very clear and concise within yourself vision, purpose, and direction. You have to know the vision. You have to be confident in the vision. You have to be assured of the vision before you're able to properly communicate the vision. And so you have to begin to be clear within yourself before you can be clear to somebody else. And so when you have clear vision, it actually creates a peaceful environment, a hardworking environment, a progressive environment that you're going forward. And so, but when you don't have clarity, what begins to happen is that team members, some of you ever getting frustrated with your team and you're like, what are they even doing? They're going over there. They're doing something I didn't ask them to do. They seem sidetracked. They seem aloof, or they're just bored. Or they're wasting time. Well, the problem might not be that they're wasting time. Like they might feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but to you, they're not. Why? Because there's not a clarity of vision between you two. Clarify the vision within yourself and then clarify the vision within your team. And I'll say this is that communication has to be repeated over and over and over. And so even with your kids, you ever feel like that? Like sometimes my son, he's 8 years old, so he's at the age like he's doing more and more chores and he's helping around the house. And sometimes I feel like I tell him things a million times. Wesley, throw the trash. Wesley, throw the trash. Wesley, throw the trash. Like I feel like I say it over and over and over and over. And it's not until like the fourth or fifth time that he wants me to throw the trash. The same is true with adults. Like we think that's just kids. It's the same as true. It's funny, as I was sharing with someone the other day, I was like about the church vision statement, and they were like, I didn't know that was the church vision. And I was like, well, it's on the wall of the cafe. We say it all the time in MC, right? Like, I'm like, how much more clear can we be? I feel like we communicate it all the time, but we have to continue to communicate vision and direction and clarity over and over and over and over and over again. They like to say that vision leaks, right? If vision is like a boat, well, what happens? Those boats get leaks in them. And so vision leaks from people. It has that little hole and it continues to go out of you. And so you got to continue to fill people with vision, direction, and clarity. People don't thrive under confusion. People thrive under clear vision. And the last part on this little one is that clarity of vision also means that you have the ability to inspire people. And so sometimes maybe people like aren't engaged with your vision or engaged with your direction. It's because they aren't inspired by it. Can I give you a good example? Let's say you're a dad, okay, or even a mom, and you want your kids to be hungry for God and hungry for church. Well, you might tell them, let's go to church. We need to go to church. Like you're repeating the message over, you're repeating the vision over and over. But have you inspired them with a vision? Have you inspired them? How do you inspire somebody with vision? First of all, they see you live it. They see that God has changed your life, right? Your kids begin to see that and be like, man, I need a piece of that. They're not going to just be hungry if you're a washed down, like barely surviving in your relationship with God. They're like, why would I want the Jesus that you serve? That doesn't seem very cool. That doesn't seem very interesting. So they're going to first feel your passion and your fire. But the second thing is that how you communicate God makes a huge difference. There's a difference. Be like, well, son, I don't want you to do drugs, so let's go to church. That's not a vision that inspires somebody. That's not saying that's not something that kids are going to be like, oh yeah, that makes me hungry for God. And be like, I don't want you to hang out with those bad friends. Let's go to church. That's not a vision. How you communicate vision is you begin to tell them God has created you to become a world changer, an influencer. God wants to use you, bless you. His purpose, his plan, his calling is upon your life. Come on, that you already feel that. That's inspirational. It's not, I'm not trying to get my kid to church so they can just be at church. Is that you inspire them that God can change their life and use them in a powerful way. That is how you communicate a vision with somebody. Don't just tell them what they need to do. You need to give them the why on why they need to do it. You need to give them a purpose behind the action. No, not just, hey, let's go to church. That let's go to church so God can use us to change the world. That speaks totally different vision. I hope y'all picked that one up. So the clarity of vision also means that you have the ability to inspire people. 2 more points. You guys still with me tonight? 2 more points. Y'all liking this tonight? Leadership, lean in. The next one, I think this is point number 5. Y'all can let me know, is fear is a leader's greatest enemy. Fear is a leader's greatest enemy. And the reason fear is the leader's greatest enemy is because fear stops you from doing what you were called to do. Fear stops you from actually leading. It actually, boom, you stop right in your tracks. And there's different kinds of fear. One of the things I think a lot of leaders fear is fear of confrontation. How many of you guys hate confrontation? You kind of, I'm looking here, right here on Facebook. How many of you guys don't like confrontation? I know sometimes, I ain't gonna lie, I don't love confrontation. I don't know very many people that do. But one of the things I used to be so afraid, like I would stay up at night thinking about, oh my gosh, I have to confront somebody, I have to talk to somebody. But not so much anymore. I have moments where I don't want to do a certain confrontation with somebody. But one of the things that I try to think about when I think about confrontation is if I don't do this, it's going to make the situation worse. It's going to make our relationship worse. Confrontation is the best thing to do. And so I don't any longer fear confrontation. I won't say I look forward to it, but I feel like it's so important to do because it makes such a huge difference. So you got to learn not to fear confrontation, that you actually have to do it. And I don't confront because I'm angry. I confront so that you can be better, I can be better, we can be clear, and we can begin to refocus our direction. That's the way I look at confrontation, is it's going to make this better. And so if you look at confrontation that way, I think it begins to come easier. It's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. Sometimes we fear to make big decisions. Man, you ever been there? You fear to make a big decision. And so, man, we've been in this season of Coronavirus Church, and I'm be honest, there's been so many big decisions that have been bumped around, gone this way, finances, direction. Like there's all kinds of these huge decisions that we've been battling with. But leaders have to learn to make big decisions. And by not making a big decision, you've already made a decision. By not making a decision, that's a decision. And so you have to learn sometimes that you got to just make the decision. You got to talk to your team, talk to the people around you, get some advice, and then you just got to make the decision. That's part of being a leader, is being able to make those decisions even if they're tough. Fear of taking risks. You ever been afraid to take risks, right? To step out? Fear of failure goes right there. Like those are hand in hand. Fear of taking risks, fear of failure. I don't want to take a risk because I don't want to fail. I don't want to take a risk because I'm going to humiliate myself if it doesn't go the way I want. And so you got to learn, like, you're going to fail at some point in your life, so you can't fear it. Like, why fear something that's going to happen? You're going to make a mistake. You're not always going to make the best decision. And so you cannot fear taking risks. Fear will stop your vision. I'm letting you know right now. Like, fear will stop your vision. Fear will stop your direction. Fear will stop you from going forward. Fear will stop you from making the necessary choices that you need to make in your life. Fear is the enemy's greatest leader. And I got one last point. I don't know if this is the most important point, but it is a good point. Y'all ready for that last point? It is a leader thinks as a team. A leader thinks as a team. The whole idea of leadership means that you're leading people, like that there's people within your sphere that you're influencing. You can't be a leader all on your own, like people be like, I'm a leader. Well, if you're calling yourself a leader, you got to have some followers. You got to have some people that are actually being led by, that you're leading, like that you're actually taking somewhere. And so leaders have to think as a team. Now, there's two kinds of thinkers when it comes to this. There's task people and there's people. Anybody who thinks task and people, like, I can give you some examples. I am a natural task thinker. And so like on a Sunday morning, if you see me running down the hall fast, it's because I got a task. I am engaged and I'm the kind of guy, I don't know if anybody else is out there, maybe you can give me a shout out, is that when I start a project, I have to finish it. I hate leaving things halfway. Even so much so, like sometimes I'll start, like I say, a project outside in the yard or something. I will work all day busting myself as hard as I can so I could finish it that day. I hate to leave it to the next day. I like to finish it. I'm a finisher. I like to finish things. I'm a very task-oriented people. And then there's people. Man, I'm going to give you a perfect example. I think Ashley Mancha is one of the most she's amazing people person. But sometimes I'll be like, hey, Ashley, I need you to do A, B, C, or D. I'm in the hallway and I'm like, Ashley, I need you to get this done. We got to get this done before service starts. And she's like, oh, yeah, no problem. And then, she goes off and she bumps into somebody and then they're crying. And then all of a sudden she's hugging them and they're praying together and they're loving on each other and they're there for 30 minutes. And I'm like, what happened to Ashley? Like, where'd she go? But she ran into a person, right? Like for her, people are the most important things. Both are great. Both are necessary. But as a leader, one of my point is that you have to learn to begin to think not just task. You got to learn to begin to think people. There's a balance to that. Is thinking as a leader is saying this: we have a task to get done. And so us together as a team, what is it going to take to make that, to get that accomplished? What is it going to take to make that happen? And so your job as a leader is not just to do tasks, but to build teams. And so I always tell people this is sometimes I'll be in my office, someone comes in and be like, hey, I got this idea. We need to get such and such thing done. We need to work on this project at church. And I'll be like, sure, go for it. But I always tell people, I said, well, I want you to do this. Don't just do it yourself. Make a team and bring them on the journey with you. But I find more often than not, they'll just decide, well, it's easier to do it myself. But the point of it is not that it's always easier than doing it yourself. It's that if you don't teach anybody or raise anybody, you will always be limited in your ability to influence and change lives. So imagine, let's even give an example in Jesus. Imagine if Jesus had never picked a 12. Well, when he died, the gospel would have ended. It would have been over because he had no team. A team is what allowed Jesus' life to echo on past the resurrection. He had a team that could carry on the job when he was gone. That's what leadership is really all about. Imagine as me of a pastor is that if I had to lead everything at church, right? I was leading kids, I was leading worship, I was leading main service, I was cleaning the building, I was painting, I was mopping, I was doing everything that needs to happen. It's impossible. So the bigger the vision, the more people it's going to take to accomplish accomplish. So just because you can do it on your own doesn't mean you should do it on your own. That's good right there. I'm telling you, just because you can do it on your own doesn't mean you should do it on your own. Again, we've been teaching our kids chores, right? And we got a 2-year-old, which she pretty much, she just makes more messes than anything else. But my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old, we've been trying to teach to do chores. Well, to be honest, sometimes it's frustrating because I could easily pick up or clean up or throw the trash way easier and faster than they could on their own. But if I don't teach them now, when they're teenagers, if they don't know how to throw the trash, clean their room, work outside, work with their hands, whatever it may be, if I don't teach them those things and start teaching them now, well, when they're teenagers, it's going to be a mess, right? Like it's not going to work. And so teaching them, even though it's harder, it will benefit me more later on. Think as a team. A strong team is the building blocks to accomplish a vision. If you have a vision, if you have a direction, if you have something you're trying to accomplish, the team is how you're going to get it done, right? Even, I don't know if you guys know, the Jordan and Bulls documentary has been coming out. So I've been watching that on Sundays or on Mondays. I've been kind of TiVoing it and watching it when I have time. But I've been watching the Bulls documentary. But, Michael Jordan, I think it's the first 8 years of his career, would go to the playoffs every year, would score like 50 points a game. I mean, he was the best player on the floor for like 8 years, but he always thought as an individual until Phil Jackson came around and he was beginning to teach Michael Jordan, pass the ball, right? Create ball movement. It's more than just you. You have a team. And so when he began to build a team, what happened is they began to win championships. You might be a great individual player today, but if you don't learn to work as a team member, you'll never win championships. It's a word for somebody today. You got to learn to begin to think as a team. Allow people to use their strengths and cover up people's weaknesses. One of the things I want to say true too is most people, not like everybody, like you're not good at everything. I am not a very good administrator. No matter how hard I try, I'll never be a very good administrator. It's just not my gifting. It's not my skill set. But what I do is I bring good administrators on my team. I might not be good at I'm not a good singer. That's a perfect example. I don't sing I sing good in the shower. I sing good, serenading my wife on a romantic evening, maybe. But I'm not a good singer. But thank God we got Jazz and the singers on the worship team and Amy and Ashley and Nathan, all these amazing people, right? They cover up my weaknesses. They make me look better than I really am. Our church worship is amazing, but that's not because I'm good at playing any instrument or I'm a good singer. It's because my team has covered up my areas of weakness. I might be good at preaching on a certain subject. I love talking leadership. I love talking vision. I love talking purpose, right? But there might be areas that I might not be the best communicator in regards to just even preaching. And so thank God we have Pastor Steve, who's probably good in areas that I'm not good at. And we have Hector or my wife or other people on the team that are strong where I am weak. And so that's the purpose of a team. We influence each other. Think about a football team, right? Not everybody's a wide receiver. You have linemen, you have a quarterback, you have a running back, you have wideouts, you have corners, right? You have tackles, you have all these different players of different builds, different strengths. Some are fast, some are big, some are slow, some are strong, some have a good arm. All these different things complement each other on the team and actually are able to create a team that can win games, right? And go to the Super Bowl and win a championship. That's what a team is all about. Think as a team today. You cover each other's weaknesses. You use your strengths the best you can. You're not good at everything. You need a team around you. Come on, somebody who is ready to become a better leader today. How'd y'all like the leadership lean in today? I know I've been doing Pastor Matt and Friends. I've been loving that. I'm going to still do that. I got some friends already lined up, going to be coming on soon. But I've really been feeling some stuff on leadership in my heart, and I hope you learned and engaged from that. Why don't we end in prayer? You guys go with prayer? Seeking God. Actually, today is the National Day of Prayer. I forgot about that. National Day of Prayer. Let's pray, y'all. What I pray as a church and anyone who might be leaning in, watching today, I pray that we could become greater leaders. Help us to grow our capacity, God, wherever we may be at today. If we're a 1 leader, God, help us go to 2 liters. Help us go to a gallon. Help us go to a 50-gallon drum. Whatever it may be, help us to grow our capacity to lead, to influence, not just to be a better leader for the sake of being a better leader, but so that we could change the world for you, Jesus. Change the world with the power of the gospel. people so that we can continue to make an impact and live out our calling. I thank you, God, that you've called us to be a church of leaders. I prophesy that many leaders are watching today, and I speak into their future that you are going to continue to grow their leadership, grow their capacity, and use them in a greater measure. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Shout out, y'all, Mother's Day. Oh, Ladies Sunday, they're doing drive-by gifts here at the church, I think from 2 to 4. I hope I got those times right, but they're giving away gifts to all the moms, so make sure and stop in. And I'm telling you, the message is fire on Sunday, and there's some cute stuff. It's going to be an amazing Sunday. Mother's Day, make sure and be there. Stream with us, and we'll be back together soon. Love y'all.